Welcome to episode 56 of Rebirth Revolution. My name is Melissa Olson. We need to talk about how the 3 tracks you are on define your experience in this school. Those 3 tracks are your Earth experience, which relates to the packaging and placement that you chose before coming here, such as the body you chose and the culture you entered. Each of those definitions has their own set of rules and predictable outcomes, such as your body is designed to grow and develop in foreseeable ways, and the culture you entered has patterns and practices that have been established. Your Earth experience is the framework within which you will work through the lessons you came here to learn. The second track is your spiritual awareness progression. You could equate your spiritual awareness level with the strength and quality of your character. You demonstrate your level of spiritual awareness by the degree to which you can employ honesty, integrity, empathy, and humility in the exercise of learning your lessons. It is not to be confused with how religious you are or claim to be. The original intent of many religions is to teach you the importance of these character issues, but we have all seen how religion can be used as a smokescreen to provide cover for heinous actions. If anyone thinks that Jesus would come back here and be on the side of those who are taking children from their parents and putting them in cages, or are beating people who draw attention to the mistreatment and murder of people based on their race, or deny care to the sick and struggling, or prop up the most malignant forms of capitalism, you might want to revisit the actual teachings of Jesus. Your character, your spiritual awareness level, is very much separate from your intellect. You see this all the time with people who possess the intellect to learn how the law works, and then use that knowledge to rob, abuse, and destroy other people. Unfortunately, as a culture, we have assessed the value of people through their intellect more than we have through their character. The rebirth will shift us away from this error. It doesn't matter how smart a person is if they use that intelligence to do harm to others. There is no amount of money or influence a person can possess that will overshadow their lack of character. But we are just beginning to figure that out. We have granted status to all the wrong people for all the wrong reasons, and we need to shift back to what actually matters. We will stop seeing people as their bank accounts or surgically perfected physical forms. We will see their character as evidenced by the choices that they make. An interesting crossover between your Earth experience and your spiritual awareness level is that each move you make to a higher level entitles you to a clearer, more brilliant view of where you are and who you are. You will even see those around you in a different light. Trees are greener, skies are bluer, joy is more deeply felt, and peace is easier to experience. The lower levels are mired in chaos and confusion. They are dark and murky and elicit feelings of hopelessness and despair. You will also feel sorrow more deeply, but you are given the elevated perspective that allows you to see that we are all here to go through things, both wonderful and agonizing. You will find some solace in knowing that it is part of the process that is growing us all. Growth is undoubtedly messy and painful and tough to watch, but it is our purpose here in this school. The third track is the collective culture. This is the cumulative outcome of everyone's spiritual awareness here in this Earth School. This is a shifting, living, breathing measurement of where we are as students. The collective culture can move to higher or lower levels depending completely on the choices that people make. Right now we have some elements of chaos that have been introduced into the collective culture. While that has been a force that has dragged some back down to the lowest levels of spiritual awareness, it has propelled even more to higher levels of awareness than they had before it all got so crazy. It has awakened and focused more people than it will destroy. You're in this Earth School making choices that reflect your honesty, integrity, empathy, and humility, and the collective culture is the scoreboard that reflects those choices. Every good choice you make lifts us all up. Let's discuss one example of how these elements interact using the life of one woman to illustrate the possibilities. Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg was born in a time when women were not seen as equal to men. They did not have the same opportunities in any area of life. She was born with a keen intellect, the ability to dissect complex issues, and a tireless spirit. She could have sat at home, as women were supposed to do back in the day, and lamented this disparity, but she chose to use her earth experience another way. She felt that we should each be free to develop our own talents and not be held back by man-made barriers. So she used her talents to make this world more equitable. She didn't just fight for women, she fought for men's rights too. She wanted things to be equal and fair. This concept is a very high-level ideal, and she did not let the times she lived in dissuade her from working to achieve the impossible. Justice Ginsburg remained calm and resolute in the face of adversity, which served her well. Her mother had advised her to avoid being distracted by emotions like anger, envy, and resentments. She advised that those emotions sap energy and waste time. Wow, that is some high-level thinking. It's really hard to avoid those feelings, but when you see people at the low levels wallowing in them, it becomes clear that they are not positive forces. I grew up in a time when no one even pretended to treat women equally. Women couldn't have their own bank accounts, their own credit cards, their own mortgages, without a male co-signer. It was like all women were children who were not to be taken seriously. If you wanted to work, you could be asked if you were going to get pregnant and be denied a job on that basis. If you got pregnant, they could fire you. Women made nowhere near as much as men because it was believed that men needed more money because they were heads of their households, and the women's income was just some sort of fun money. Women still don't make as much money, even though 40% of homes have a woman as the main breadwinner. We still have a lot of work to do on that one. The culture had some hard and fast rules about who women could be and what they were worth. Their limitations were well defined by others. But that was also true for men. Men were not supposed to be involved in the raising of kids or to have any deep emotional connection to them. They were limited to being the guy who went to work, mowed the lawn, took out the garbage, and that was about it. The rest of it was women's work and women's concerns. I think that generation of men were really stripped of some of the greatest aspects of life due to the finite ways in which they were allowed to be in the world. They too were in a confining, restrictive, man-made box. The culture was not accommodating of each person bringing what they did best to each and every area of life. That limits how successful the culture can be. Then came Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She saw it another way. She had a tight partnership with her husband Marty, and they supported each other through each of life's challenges. She knew firsthand that it could be done another way, that couples could have a partnership where they would both be capable of reaching their full potential. So she tenaciously took on the system, one court case after another, until she broke down some of the man-made barriers. If not for her work, we women would still be treated as children who were not capable of having any agency over our own lives and destinies. In this limiting Earth School, she used her spiritual awareness to change the collective culture for the better. She was firing on all cylinders, and in doing so, she changed the world. We all have the capacity to change the world. It doesn't even have to happen on the level of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. We all have the ability to look around us at this Earth School and determine the ways in which we can make it better and more just. All we need to do is figure out what matters to us, figure out what our individual skill sets are, and get to work. We can influence current and future generations in our homes, in our workplaces, and in the culture at large. We just need to make sure that we are incorporating our highest ideals into that work. I'm eternally grateful that Justice Ginsburg changed our world for the better. One of the character or spiritual awareness attributes that we need to ramp up to get this thing moving in the right direction is honesty. When I look at all the misery and unrest that we are afflicted with right now, it occurs to me that the element that is missing is honesty. We can't seem to tell the simple, unvarnished truth about anything. Let's start with the history of our culture. A renewed interest in history is not all about finding past misdeeds. It's about telling the whole story, which includes the acts of valor and the stories of triumph. Our history is full of ideas and behaviors that we have grown past. That is something to be celebrated. But to deny the toxic ideas and behaviors of the past and what those actions created will keep us from growing to the extent that we can. At this point in our history, the denial is opening us up to recreating the horrors of the past. First, we heard Holocaust deniers, and the next thing you know, there are young men with tiki torches marching and spewing anti-Semitic ideology. Everything that we refuse to face ends up being recreated. The souls who committed atrocities in the past are here again at the same level of spiritual awareness they inhabited when they did it the first time. Our current culture cannot give them the capacity to turn our world dark again. It remains a fact that low-level souls can do immeasurable harm, and it is our job to speak the truth about that. It is our job to call out atrocities and give them no space to be tolerated. We must not turn our backs on the truth. The truth is that not every person in our culture is treated the same. That is the truth. The energy that is expended trying to dispute or deny that truth should be used instead to change that fact. But it's so very human to resist growth. The culture is also resistant to growth, but it's why we are here. It is our work to do. When you have people peacefully demonstrating against brutality, and those with the guns and power brutalize the demonstrators, we are resisting growth. The demonstrators are trying to show those with power what should not be tolerated, and they just keep bringing the brutality as a deflection from seeing the truth about the system they are upholding. The efforts of those who speak truth to power are every bit as much for the benefit of the oppressors as it is for the oppressed. Those who uphold the oppression are no more free than those who are on the receiving end of the oppression. Acceptance of the truth is our only way forward. But instead, we are surrounded by people who are like a toddler with frosting all over their face, who adamantly denies that they ate the cupcake. They think we can't see the truth. We see the truth. We will stand in the truth and allow it to grow us. We will get comfortable with the uncomfortable and use the ways we have been wrong to fuel our course correction. We are strong enough to handle the truth, and we are capable of the love and compassion that the world needs to set things right. We can fire on all cylinders. Thanks for listening to Rebirth Revolution. We can now be found on Amazon Music, as well as every other place you get your podcasts, also on YouTube and on social media. We are here for you. Email any questions or ideas you have to rebirthrev@gmail.com. Until next week, speak your truth, hear the truths of others, examine your resistance, and wear your mask. Remember, you are loved exactly as much as every other person on the planet, not 1 ounce more or 1 ounce less. Stay strong and safe, and let's keep up the fight. We need your help.